Okay, so we are back, week 11, part 2, right? I've put this on GitHub. I think I've put it on GitHub. Looks like I have everything going okay. So it's on GitHub now for under product maintenance Tuesday. Okay, so that is where you will find it if you want to pick up what we were doing. So we just completed the product class. We kind of revised what object-oriented programming was. Hopefully we know why classes are needed, what's their use, and then how we use them. Okay, now if you notice, I've also given to you an empty validator class here. What I'm going to do here today is, if you remember, garbage in, garbage out. Till you validate your input, you can't rely on your output. So all projects that we've been doing, I think after week 3, once we learned how to catch our exceptions, we've said, okay, we will always validate our input. And that's rule number 1, right? If your input is not validated, as I said, your output is not reliable. Okay, so we've learned how to write try-catch blocks, and we've written nested try-catch blocks so that we test every field that is given, and then we say, oh, everything is okay, and we do it. There is another option of using try-parse, but the only, I don't know, I think it is a disadvantage, but again, different viewpoints. All it returns is a value of true or false, and that you could have exception, who knows, maybe from format, maybe your format is not right, maybe it's out of range of a particular type. So you don't know what kind of exception occurred. All you know is something, if it all worked fine, the try parse returns are true, and you say, okay, done. But if something doesn't, if it is unable, if an exception is thrown, you can kind of tell the user what kind of exception is thrown. And I've always said that giving useful messages to the user is a must. So what went wrong? Something went wrong makes no sense. You have to provide the input, makes sense. The input can only be numbers, makes sense. The input is out of range, makes sense, but there was some error, doesn't make sense to me. So I stick to try catches just because then I can catch different type of exceptions, and then when I type catch different type of exceptions, I can also give tailored separate messages as to why the problem occurred. And I would recommend that. Think of yourself being the user and a message coming up which says something like input string is not in the right format. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay. So sticking to that, what I will do in this class is I'll make the job a little easier in the sense that, yes, I will give a particular message. If you've missed a field, I'll say this field is missing, code field is missing, description is missing. And why am I validating? That's the first thing you have to understand, right? So when you add a new product, you're asking for the code, description, and price. And definitely you only want to save valid products in your XML file. I'm saying every product must have a code, must have a description, and must have a price. Now you can put additional, you can say rules on it. You can say code can only be 4 characters, something that I did in the product class, which I can also do in validator actually, if my validator is only linked to this product class. If it is a general validator class, then basically, then you can put the common ones, the format exception, the out of range exception. But definitely, since I'm only working on this application, my validator class is linked to this one. I'll say for description, I'm not kind of going a lot. I'm just saying it should not be empty. For price, it cannot be empty. It has to be a decimal value. It has to be greater than 0, right? Otherwise, how can you save a price of -5 in your XML file? Can do that. So when a new form comes up and the user gives new input, I would like to validate my input, and that validation, before I save anything in it, I've given the code of this one, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, I haven't. The button and cancel have to be done. Okay, so I'm going to write my validator class first so that here are methods that will validate my input, and then I'll put it in my form. Okay, so how do I write a validator class? Notice how I've said that this is a static class. So again, it's a utility class, a helper class that will kind of help me validate my input. It's linked to my project, to my product class, actually more to my project and product class, and it validates anything that you put in those 3 fields. And here is what I want to validate. It could be to anything. I'm just validating this. All my 3 fields should be non-empty. You should provide a value. Code should be of 4 characters, so I'll remove it from there and maybe add it here. My price must be a decimal number. So, I'm saying decimal. You could stick to integer. I'm going decimal because prices can be decimal. And I'll say the price must be greater than 0, or you can say, oh, it must be between 0 and 100. If you want to restrict it that way also, you can always give an upper limit. right? So I'm doing a few things here in my validator. So how do I do it, and how can I make it useful? Give a different message to each one of the fields and so on. You'll see how am I doing it generally today. And you will like this way of doing it because one, it's easy in the sense it's kind of in one class. So it can be done like you know where to do everything. And all you have to do is then call the required method to say, oh, is code given, is description given, and so on and so forth. I'll show you how you do it. Of course, first you need learn how to make the class. So the validator class, again, you can put your comments. The purpose of this class is to validate your input, right? So again, we'll kind of, okay, so put your name, put today's date or whatever version numbers, whatever you would like. And the purpose of this class, this helper class or utility class, whatever you would like to call it, validates or defines methods. That's what it does, right? It just defines it. But again, it's a static class, so you can use the methods with the class name. Okay. It validates a product's code, description, and price. That's what it does. That's what it uses. So it has methods that do the following. Okay, so let's start and write our static methods in here. And as I said, I'll just because we've done properties now, I'll kind of work with properties here. I'm going to use a private static. Anything in a static class has to be static, okay? A static string variable called title. And I'm giving it an initial value. Usually this is not how we do it in Java. We usually don't give we don't usually assign values to instance variables where they are declared. But you know what? C# has kind of taken some things from the C, and it can be done there. Okay, let's create a property for public for the title. Sorry, it's a public property. It returns a string because title is a string variable. I'm going to call it title. And since I don't have to do much except get and set, I'm going to use a self-bodied property. Oops. Semicolon, not there. What isn't it like? What doesn't it like? Validator title cannot declare instance members. Oh, sorry, forgot my static. Yeah, there. That's the problem. I'm thinking, what doesn't it like now? There, right? So that's a self-bodied property. We just looked at one in our product class. So it has a get method that is returning the title, and it has a set method that is setting title to value, whatever will come to it. Okay, though. And as I said, instead of here, I could have done an equal to here, but I have a set here. I don't know if I need to use it. If I don't, then I'll go with the other way of doing it, which I've shown you in the other example. Okay, so there's my property for my title. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to write some static methods. These static methods will either return true or false because validation done or not done. Field is right or wrong. You know what I mean? Is correct or not. That's so they'll return Boolean values. So I'm going to define some Boolean returning static methods. So you can go bool, small bool with B, or you can go capital Boolean, right? Like string also. Okay, so I'm going to say is present. So I'm basically saying my field is not empty, it's present. And notice I'm going to pass a text box to it. I'm just calling it text box. Okay, I'm going to pass a text box to it. So there are 3 text boxes in my field, in my form. If you remember the new form, kind of keep this in your mind so that this is what we are doing. We have 3 text boxes, and these 3 inputs will be passed to the validator, and it will check, is something present here, is something present here, is something present here. So what the validator is doing is, where are you, validator? What the validator is doing is it is taking a text box, and its job will be to test if this text box is empty or not. If it is not empty, it will return true. If it is empty, it will return false, right? But also I want to print an error message. Now, how will I say code is absent or description is absent, or price is absent. You know what I mean? There are three different fields. Now what I've done is, and this is another technique you can learn and very, very easy, like very simple to work with. If you go to your new product design and bring your mouse over code and look at the properties, I've used a property called tag that I haven't used till now. Notice there is a property called tag with a text box. I've given it a name code. So there is a property called tag. If you bring your mouse over it, it says user defined data associated with the object. I'm going to very smartly use this tag property, and I've said code in the code text field, I've said description in the description text field, and I've said price in the price text field. Now I can give a generic message, take the tag of your text field, and the error message will say this field cannot be empty. So it will say code is not empty, cannot be empty, description cannot be empty, price cannot be empty. So one method will check for all of these three. Clean, right? So clean code. Okay, let's come here. Okay, so what am I checking now? I'm checking if this field is empty. So I'm going to check if my text box, that's your text box, dot text, same property, right, is empty. We've done this we've done it so many times in our projects, right? So if it is empty, I want to show as you show. We always do that. What do we show? We show a message box. We say, now we want to say, now we don't know whether it's code, description, or whatever. But the beauty is I have that property. I have that property called whatever text box you're passing me. I'm going to take its tag property. And I've put them as code, description, and price because I know I want to print it, right? And I'll say, and I'll put a plus, and I'll say, cannot be left empty or is a required field. Right? So this will say code is a required field. And if you want, cannot be left blank or cannot be blank. There. So when this method is called with the code text box, this text box, this one, when it is called with this text box, text code, it's going to say code is a required field. Why? Because what is the value of tag? Code. When it is called with this one, notice what is the value of tag. It will say description, cannot be left empty, right? When it's called here, it will say price is a required field, cannot be blank. So a method is taking a text box. That method is checking if it is not empty and of course completed. What would you like to say? Now here is where I've used that title over and over again. I think I can, instead of giving entry error there, I'll show you the other way of doing it, right? So that's the title. You have your own message box buttons. Oh, not the message box, sorry. It's called message box buttons, right? There it is. Take your buttons is the third one, remember? That's your okay. And then your fourth one is what? Exclamation mark. Or whatever I mean. Icon, yes. So if you would like it to be an exclamation, sure. If you want to give it an information, if error, whatever you like. Whatever makes sense, of course. Not whatever you like, whatever makes sense. And another thing I'll do is, as I always do, I'll bring the focus back to my text box. And I'm saying is present, so I don't have to do a select all. There is nothing to clear. It's an empty box. Bring your focus back to the text box. Job done. Else, I mean, of course, if this is not the case, oh, and it's a Boolean. So I have a return statement here. I don't have to put an else now because it's going to return true anyway. I kind of put this because I'm very quickly going to lose the count of my brackets. There. What isn't it? Oh, forgot my dot show. There it is. Notice, so this method is going to take a text box, is going to check if it is empty, and if it is empty, is going to give this message on the screen and return a value of false, otherwise return a value of true. And what I'll do is I'll just call this method from my save event handler to see if everything is present. Call it with all three. It returns a true or a false. And notice I can give a proper message too. I've done it. I've given a message. So I have a separate message for all my fields. So I'm trying to do the same thing that I did with try and catch, but in a more clean manner and using my classes. Okay, let's write another method. So if you want, and you should, or if an input. That's what it checks, right? That's its use. What does this method do? This method checks if the price is a decimal. I'm just saying input is decimal. Then I don't have to say price. I'm not restricting it. Right? Okay. Okay. So again, let's create a public method. This will, again, don't forget the static is going to return a Boolean value. I'm going to call it is decimal. And again, it will take a text box. So I'll call it with the price text box. I won't call it with code and description because it doesn't make sense. Okay, what does it do? Now it will check that what you've provided is a decimal. And now I can use a try parse. Remember, try parse returns a true or a false. So I can do that job and give a proper message. So I'm going to take a decimal number, though it's not, I could do it without it. I'm going to initialize it to 0 because local variables are not initialized to 0 automatically. Right? And I'm going to parse my text box and I'm going to do a decimal dot parse. So if the try parse method, remember, it returns a true or a false. So, and what does it need? It needs two parameters. Try parse says, what are you trying to parse? Okay, this is what I'm trying to parse. And it also requires out. Out means it's a reference variable that goes out of this method, right? You could use it if you like. I'm not using it, but it's a requirement. It requires two parameters. So what it returns is a true or a false. It says if you try to parse it and if it is successful, return a true. Right? Or you could do the other way. I mean, I'm just showing you that you can do it either way. In the first one, I wrote the message in the if. Here I'm writing it in the else. Doesn't matter. It's just an if else. So try to parse it. Oops. Take your text. Take your text box dot text. That's what you're parsing. And this is actually try parse. If you bring your mouse over it, please notice. Try parse requires two parameters, converts the string representation of a number to its decimal equivalent. A return value indicates whether the conversion succeeded or not. Now, this is the if it succeeds, it will put the answer in number. That's what it is. That's the use of this number. But you know what? My method can only return one value at a time. So I can't return true, plus I also cannot return number. So I'll do a parse again. Once I validated it, I'll do a parse again in my code. Right? I cannot return two things from a method. From here, I'll just return a true. And then I'll use the try parse. I know it's fine. So I'll use the try parse method again. Okay. Else, we'll do the same thing. Show a message box. So irrespective of which field you are testing, now I'll again do the same thing. I'll say this, whatever text box you're passing me, tag. And instead of here, I'll say must be a decimal value. What will it say? For example, I mean, it doesn't make sense. If it was the code field which needed to be a decimal value, it will say code must be a decimal value. If price needs to be a decimal value, it will say price needs to be a decimal value. And from where is it coming? The tag property of your text box, which have to be set correctly, of course. Right? Then it will make sense. Okay, the title looks okay to me. Okay button looks okay. And here, just because you've given a wrong value, I would like you to do a text box dot select all or clear, whatever you like. Both are good. Select all highlights it and focus brings your mouse back. Don't forget these small user-friendly things to do. Because if it selects and brings the mouse back, all I have to do is type again. If you don't do that, then I have to go there. I have to select it. Then I have to type it. And these are all user-friendly interfaces automatically. Right? Makes sense? If you pass the price field, it will say price must be a decimal value. It will give this title. And I think I can do it. Let me try it. I can't remember the syntax off my head. But you know what? It's not rocket science. If it is wrong, we'll get something. If you don't have a set method, I mean, you don't need a set method to change the title. You'll say, no, I want to. Sure, it's up to you, not a big deal. But you don't. So I'm going to say, what was it? Entry error, right? Or the other option is, instead of just saying entry error, you could pass the tag from here and set the title every time. You can do that too. If it had a set method, you can set it every time. You can say code error, code entry error, description entry error, price entry error. It can be done. But I think this is another way of initializing any variable that doesn't have a set, but you want to give it an initial value. I don't think you can do both. Let me try, or maybe you can. Yeah, okay, both can be done. You can still have a set. So the initial value can be given like this. And there was another way I did it. Remember, I did it here also. You can give it here also if you like. I just like this way better because I think more from Java, you don't initialize instance variables where you declare them. But this is another way of doing it. And you will say, if I don't need the set, just remove this. A way of using the set would be, you can set the title here. Do you want to see how would you? I mean, it's as simple as that. You would call the title property and you would say something like, why not? I mean, if you know how to use it, it's not a big deal. Take this, and add, what do you want to say? Entry error always. Here. So now your title will always say something like code entry error, description entry error, price entry error. Makes more sense? See, your title is, then of course this doesn't make sense at all. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe if you want to keep this just for the heck of it. If you don't want to do this, then it will always say entry error. But this will be much neater now. You can do this. Why not? And you can do the same here. So the set method is now coming handy. You can make it private if you like. So you'll have to just, I mean, just because we are not doing so much, but there are different ways of doing things. Okay, I could have initialized it right here too, just for your information again, so that you know. You know, when the time comes to use it, I'm sure you will have to refer to it. I could do it this way also. I can do it this way also. So there are various ways of doing it. I made my set private here because it will be never called from outside. I won't call it from outside. I can do it like this also. Now your title changes to whatever, code entry error, and leave a blank here. Code entry error, description entry error, price entry error. Will make, like, it's just what it is. Okay, and I gave it an initial value of entry error. If you don't do it, then it will just say entry error. If I don't do it here, it will just say entry error. So do you see, like, I mean, you can make your error messages and dialog boxes as informative as you want. And you should. That's my thinking. Okay, so I've written an is decimal. What else do we need? At least for my code. I mean, there could be many more. Oh, your overflow error. I'm thinking of what all we do in our we check for blanks. We check that it is a number, and then we check also for overflow exception. So let's write an overflow exception also. Let's call it public again. So let's create a public static. Let's call it is within range. And then you can use it not only for, and again, I'll pass a text box to it. I mean, all your inputs are usually from text boxes, right? If it was from a combo box, then it would be different. Or return type is missing. Oh, you know what? Why don't we do this? Pass the range also to it. Now, it's a little more work. Maybe I'll override it. I can override it, actually. This is for decimal numbers, okay? Now you could do something like price will lie between the range 0 and 40. For example, I'm just giving you an example. If you want to use it for an overflow, then you will have to pass the minimum value of the flow of the decimal and the maximum. You'll say, how do I find that? They have constants. The constants are defined. You'll use decimal dot min value, decimal dot max value, and it will work. Like, so now I'm writing a method that will kind of work like an overflow exception, depending upon what input you give. Okay? And I'll show you how to use it. So we can, and again, you can have like I did only decimal because my price was a decimal. You can say is integer, and you can do the same thing. You know what I mean? Same. Now you will parse it as an integer. So depending upon what you want, I'm just putting the methods that I need. Okay, so what is this? It should be within range. Okay, we'll take a decimal number again because try parse needs it. Okay, I'm going to convert to decimal. I could do a parse also, but just trying to again show you different ways of doing it. I'm going to convert to decimal. I could have done a parse, guys. Try parse. Just showing you it can be done in different ways. Take your text box and take your text. So this is something like try parse, but I mean, using the convert method. If you were able to do it, so let's try to convert it. You know what I'll do? I'll call that it is a decimal before I call it is within range. So instead of try parse, I've used convert here. Okay, so I'll first check it is a decimal number, and then after I've checked it is a decimal number, I'll call this method. So I don't have to do a try parse here. I can work with convert. Okay, now overflow. If your number is greater than equal to, oh sorry, it should be, yeah, it's fine. Anyway, whatever you like, is greater than equal to min, and your number is less than equal to your max. So you could be doing any error checking here. 0 to 10, -5 to 5, minimum of the decimal to maximum of the decimal. Like anything, any kind of range checking can be done here. So if there is nothing else to check, anything is allowed, you can call it with max value and min values of your decimal. Those are constants for your information. So if everything is okay, then you all have to do is return true. Oh, forgot my type. You know what I can do here instead of returning true? No. Yeah, I could just return the number here. I could just return the number here. That would be an advantage, except usually in a validator class, every method returns true or false. But I could do it. It's not a big deal at all. But what will I do in the other one then? Else, if I return the number here, the problem will be what will I return there? And therefore, I think I'll stick to this. Okay, so what do we need to do? Same thing. So you've given me something that is not within range. Okay, so here, of course, I don't want to say must be a decimal value. I'll say tag must be between. See what I'll do? I'll kind of give you the whole message. It must be between the min and the max. So how neat can you get? Like this is information at its best. You're telling everything. And again, I didn't change the title, but if you wanted to, and I would recommend, because since we have it, why not? You can take your title wherever you want and add entry error to it. Maybe, you know what, since I've set it, its default value is entry error. Oh, let me show you. Let me be a little more. What about this? What do you think I've done here? I've used the get method. On the left-hand side, I've used the set method. On the right-hand side, I've used the get method. So I'm getting entry error, what I saved in it. Notice what I saved in it? Entry error. So this is when you use it on the right-hand side, you're using the get method. When you're using on the left-hand side, you're using the set method. So now you kind of know the use. So I'm going to, now what happens? If you change it, I don't have to worry about it. Instead of entry error, suppose you set it to, I don't know, whatever, something else error, it will change and you can just use it. So this would be a better way. So let's put it everywhere. If it is returning true, let's put it here. Get it and set it and get it. Else put it here. I'll run it for you. You'll see how good my message boxes will be. So now what will it say? This value must be between minimum and maximum. Then I show you the title. Again, this is getting. I show you the OK button. I show you the exclamation. I select all and I focus. There. Job done. So if you wanted an is 32, what would you do? Something that you've done in your is decimal. Same thing. You would try to parse it. If it parses well, good, return a true. If it doesn't pass, you return a false. Okay? Can you explain line 60? Why did it convert to decimal? Oh, this is a method. Oh, because I'm checking for, I'm assuming now this method will be used. This method will be used to check if the value that I'm passing it, and I'm assuming I'm passing it a decimal number. If it was an integer, then I would have to say integer. So I'm checking whether this number is within a particular range. For me, price is a decimal number. So that's why I've used decimal here. So why am I converting it? Oh, because remember, anytime you take input in the text boxes, it is a string. So you have to convert it from a string to a number. So I'm using the convert method, the convert class to do it. It's like your parse method. So it's an alternative to your parse. I just thought I would show you the convert. You could do a parse here, decimal.parse. It will be fine, right? You could do a decimal.parse. So it's equivalent to your decimal.parse that you've been doing. I think I've shown you both. I've shown you both a convert also. So this is what it is. Okay. So why am I converting it? Because it's a number that I want to work with. After I convert it, only then can I check, do you lie between minimum and maximum? And this minimum and maximum are given here. Okay. So my validator class is ready. At least for my project, it's ready. I could add whatever I like in it. Really doesn't matter. Now let's complete the other classes. Let me see where am I missing things. What am I missing in 1 or 2 or whatever? I can't remember now because I did it last week. So I'll have to kind of look at my what I gave you. Okay, so this should be ready. I don't see any red squigglies anywhere. Now come back to your product main design. Let's see what we have in add. Let's see if it is nothing is complete. Oops. Okay. Okay, so let's complete now these forms. Okay, so what do we want to do in forms? Let's go back and give it a minute. Whenever I do add product, I want to show my new form to the user, right? So that must come up and this must hide. So you can hide this and you can show this. You can do it wherever you like, doesn't really matter, but I'll try to, one has to be hidden, the other has to be shown. What about delete product? I'll check that you've selected something from the list, selected index is not equal to -1, and I'll delete it. And basically both of these will get the, say, if anything is changing, it will change it in the XML file and then also repopulate your list. Okay, so let's go one by one. So let's come back here. New, not in new, in this one. Okay, so double click on here. So before I do anything at all, I need some list. I have a list that I have to work with. Okay, so let's create a list. So I'm going to create a list of products. So at the class level, please create a private list of products. We don't say products here, we call it product, right? So when I say products, I mean it has more than one. Call it whatever you like. I'm sticking with products. Give it a value of null to start with. I mean, you don't have to, by default is what it is. In the load method, when the form loads, I'm going to take my products class and I'm going to call new. You know what I can do? I don't have to say new even, because remember that products class that I have, the DB, it had a get products method. Okay, populate it. So you don't have to say new because that one is returning a list already. So you don't have to say new, product DB. Otherwise, an object is always initialized by saying is equal to new. You create a project, but this get products, bring your mouse over it here. Notice what is it returning? It is already returning a list of product. So that list comes and it is initialized here. Okay. And in a minute, I'm going to say fill. I'll tell you what this is. This is just a local method. I'm going to fill my list box. It will say, what is this? I don't know what it is. Bring your mouse over it and generate that method, and it will kind of generate that empty method. Or populate the display list. This here. That's what this fill is doing, not much. And what is the load doing? The load is getting all the products from the file. That's what it's doing. That's what this get products is doing, guys. That's what this get product is doing. So remember, we've kind of assumed that that's what it will do. Of course, this is not what it will do. Okay, what do you want to do here? So it is in a local variable. This is what we have to do. You are getting a list back and I want to fill up my list display. So all you have to do is, for your information, it's called LST for your list products. Clear the items just to be sure that, why? Because I want to clear all my previous items. Keep in mind, there is a difference between clearing a list and, for example, what am I noticing? Which assignment am I checking? Assignment 4. If I say clear, the contents of the list are lost. If you only want to clear the selection, then don't say dot clear. Clear will clear the contents of the list. Everything will go. If you just want to clear what is being displayed in the combo box, just say selected index is equal to -1. There is a difference. Clear is a method which is going to clear all the contents of the list box. So somebody made that mistake. I know who, but I won't take the name. But anyway, so keep in mind, clear method is different from selected index being set to -1. They're two different things. Okay, and now use your for each loop. Now we don't have to do something. Take one product at a time out of your, list. We'll call it P just to be. Remember that products that you've just created, which you've already populated here. You've got your products and put it in the list. So getting all the products from the file and populating your list. That's what it does. There is a difference. This is populating the list and this is populating the display. And what do you want to do? Just display it on the screen. Take your list, add to the items. You must be familiar with this if you've done your, okay, now what do you want to add? Remember that get display method? I'll use that. Take your P and call your get display method. There it is. If you want to pass a colon or something, use the one that maybe you want to do it with tab. I don't know. If you don't want to do it with anything, that's all you do. Then it will put a comma. If you want to do it with the tab, remember there was a separator that you could use. You can do it. This is how you will pass a separator, a string to it. There. So in your list box, your products will come one per line. You'll say how one per line. Remember this? It was in the product class. It was showing you code, description, price, code, description, price, code, description, price, one per line. So that's filling your product list box. This is getting it and putting it in your array, or not your array, sorry, on your list. I'm not using an array because I don't know how many. A valid use of list. Remember, a list was a dynamic structure. Okay, so add is done, a load is done, and fill product is done. What do I do in add? What do I want to do in add? When you click on the add button, I want to hide this form, show the other form. That's what I want to do. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. So you want to, I mean, you can hide it and show it wherever you want. You want to show the new form, new add product form. That's what you want to do. I'm kind of, you could do it anywhere. Take your form, new product, just creating a new product, okay? And that's the name of your form for your information. You have it here. There it is, form, new product. Create a new object of it. You have to call the new, there it is. You don't have to say this because we're in the same namespace. Did it have a, it only has an empty constructor. There it is. And if you like, you can do it right here, though you can do it in the other form also. Take your new product form. There it is. And say show dialog. The other form will come up. If you want to hide the present form, it's up to you. If you don't want to hide it, you don't have to. So show dialog means that form will come up like your show dialog, like your message boxes. Until you respond to it, it will not go away. Okay, so that's the difference between show and show dialog. So I'm saying show dialog because I want you to either click on save or cancel and then go ahead. You have to do something. Okay, so you could do it here or in your other method, doesn't matter. And now once you show it, remember in the save, it will return you a product. So if you hit save, it will return you a product. We haven't yet written that. We should have written it anyway. So you're going to, from that particular form, there is a method which you haven't written. Oops. Okay, let me change this right away. Convention not followed. New product form. Not much mistakes done yet, so we can do it right here. So there will be a method there. When you hit save, it is going to return you this product. Okay, we haven't written it. We'll write it. Get the new product from there. When you hit save, that's what I'll do. And if it is not equal to null, you may have done cancel. Who knows? Is not equal to null. So you got a product. Okay, so assuming, which we haven't done yet, assuming your new product form will give you a get new product, which is empty right now. I think it's empty right now, right? It will get you, it will get it to you. We will put it in a product. And if the product is not null, what should I do? I have to show it in the list. I have to put it in my XML file also. Don't forget that. So to your local list, add it. To your local list, add it. And just adding to the local list will not work. You will have to put it back in your products.db. From that class, use the save products method, assuming it's there and it will do the job. Save it and then fill your list again. Fill your list again. There it is. What isn't it like? Wasn't it called products? Oh, okay. That's why there. At least now I'm doing the right thing. New product form spelling is wrong. That's why that's what it doesn't like. Okay, get new product is not defined. So that's definitely we have to define it. Anything else I'm missing? No, we are okay now. Okay, thank you. Spelling mistakes, speaking, talking, looking, typing, everything. Okay. There it is, right? So assuming this get new product, which we'll write for a minute, it belongs to the other class. It says I can't find a definition. You can jump to it right now if you like, but I'll complete this class and then go there. But notice when you bring your mouse over there, it says form new product does not contain a definition and no extension method, whatever do you want to do it. If you come here and you say fix it, it will add it to your other get method. It will add it. It will generate that method in that class, and empty stub, of course, but it will generate it. So if you want to say yes, do it, you can do it. Okay. Anyway, we'll go there. What does button delete do? Button delete means you have selected something from your list and you want to delete it. So before you even delete it, check that it has been selected. And how do you check that? Remember your selected index. So if you have selected something from your list product list, so you've selected something. And if you haven't selected something, I would tell the user to select something, is something I would do, right? So I would say an else, or I mean, if you haven't selected, is if it is, depends, whatever you want to do. So if it is not equal to -1, we are good to go. Else we will put a message box on the screen saying, you know what, please select the regular. We'll say, please select the product to delete. I mean, otherwise, how will I delete it? I mean, how will you delete it? And then again, it will be, you can say deletion unsuccessful if you like. So this is just the error message, okay? What else? Your OK button. Oops. And your icon. And again, if you want it on next line so that you can see it, though by now I think you should be good with it. And again, it depends if it's an information or whatever you would like to give. There is nothing to focus here on because, I mean, you know what I mean? Like you just forgot to select something. There is no select all or focus. But if you selected it, that means you want to delete it. Before, again, every time before deletion, just so that we don't go wrong, I'm going to confirm from the user, are you sure? So we'll take a dialog result and we'll show a message box.show. And we'll ask the user, sure you want to delete it? Right? So you're basically saying, are you sure you want to delete the product information or whatever? But that's what you're doing, right? So basically, you're basically confirming, confirm delete. That could be your title, right? It's always a good thing to use these, what's available and what, okay, now you need 2 buttons, yes, no. You can do a cancel also if you like. I'll do a yes, no. So the user answers, no also is the same thing. Cancel means nothing will happen, right? And then what do we want now? Icon with a question mark. What else do we want? If you want yes to be the default, you don't have to do the last one. If you want no to be default, then you will say message box button default. But if you want to keep the first one, which is yes, you're good. So you're kind of doing this. You're asking the user, are you sure that's what you want to do? And if the user says yes, that's what I want to do, get the product from the list. Oh, you know what? I'll have to use it twice. So I'm going to do this. Whenever you have to use the same thing more than once, then it's just better to put it in a local variable. Because I have to get it. Okay, so if the user says yes, I'm okay. These are called block variables, guys. Anything that you are putting inside, you could have made them local, nothing stops you, but if you just need it here. So get it from your list box. Remember to convert it into a product, because remember, a list box is only a list of objects. So get it from, what is it called? You have this array, right? It's the list from the position I. Uh-oh, forgot my equal to. So products was a list of products. I think I'll be okay because I'm not picking it up from the list box. I should be okay like this also. Yep. If you were picking it up from the list box dot selected index, whatever, then I have to convert it into a product. But my products is a list of products already. It's already defined. I don't have to do it. And this is easier way of doing it. Why would I pick it up from the list box when it's also available in my list? Okay, so we've done it. We've got it. So you've confirmed it. The user says, yes, I want to delete it. And so you delete it. So what do? You remove it from your list. You remove it from the XML file and you repopulate your list. So every time you do the same thing. So if the user says yes, so what did we call it? Oh, didn't even give it a name. There, confirm it from the user. So if your confirm is yes, so if the confirm is yes, that means yes, the user says yes. Okay, so if the confirm is yes, remember every time we have to update our file also, otherwise what's the sense of the file? If you're only using a list which is dynamic in nature and which is volatile, when the program ends and starts again, we are back to square one. Okay, so what do we have to do? Remove it from your list. Remember the remove method? Or you can say remove at. Both will work because we have it anyway. We have both. We have the option. We have the product. We also have the selected index. So you can use remove or you can say remove at and use your selected index. Both are available to us. Notice product is available to us and also I is available to us. So whatever you like, both can be done. Okay, so you've removed it from your list. You have to put it back on the file. Go to your product DB class and use its method called save products and pass the list to it. The whole list goes again. And then you fill it back. Fill it back. There it is. So notice, if I don't do this, I'm back to square one. Nothing gets saved. Nothing gets repopulated. So every time you add a new product or you delete a product, I make the change. Of course, I make the change to the file and then I repopulate my list again. Fill products, I do it again. You just can't say, okay, make the change to the list and make the change to the file. The display is also to be changed. And the display change is done by fill my products again. So make the change to your local list, make the change. You'll say, then why do I need a list? Because remember, I have to put it in my file and my file is an XML file which has those three things and I'm kind of keeping it here in a list and then copying the whole list. There are other ways of doing it, but this is the easiest way of doing it. Okay, so that's my button delete. And I think I did give exit. Okay, so close the application. I'm closing the form here, but you could have used, so if I do an application.exit, I usually say terminate the application. If I close the form, remember when this form closes, automatically the application will close because this is the form with which you started. So when you close the form, you'll say, how do I know that? I hope you haven't forgotten. Notice this is the form with which you started. So if you close this form, it closes the application. It terminates the application also. Okay, where were we? Here. No, not here, in its code. Here. So remove empty lines. Oops, remove empty lines. There. So now what add product is going to the add new form and we'll do the other jobs there, right? The form comes up and you show that form. Now that getting the new product is from there, which you will just get. That's the only one that's left. And then once I have it, I'm just adding it here. So we have to go to the new form now. What was that called? Oh, I forget. Anyway, we'll go there and do it. Okay, we just need to add the new form. I forget. I'm not sure if I gave you that code. If I haven't, we'll just do it. No big deal. I can't remember if I gave you that code. Oh well, doesn't matter. Okay, so now this is missing. So we'll complete it. So this is complete, but it won't work till I can do a delete. Delete is no problem, but this will cause a problem. So let's go to your main. Where is your new form? There it is. So there are two buttons here. There is a save button here and there is a cancel button here. Save is where I'm going to do my saving and cancel is just cancel. Now here in the save button, I'm going to use that validator class. So when you give me these inputs, code, description, and price, I'm going to take care that they are full before I use it. So give me 1 minute. I'm just trying to look if I have the code or if I have to go by a particular. My validator is complete. My product is complete. Product list we'll talk about if we have to. If not, we'll leave it alone. Okay, so what I need is okay. Double click on it, please. So there it is. So of course I haven't, so cancel is just closing the form. So now in save, what do I want to do in save, guys? Save should check what? Code is provided, description is provided, price is provided, price is a decimal number, price is within range. So these 5 things have to be done. And notice what I'll do. I'm as simple as this. If all from your validator class, and how I'm calling it, the sequence is important, because remember your doubles and I'll tell you they're short circuit and. Okay, so what are we going to call? So let's say, what was it? What was the is present? Okay, so what do you want to say is present? The code text box. So it should say text code. There it is, right? And what else should be present? It's a static class. What else is present? Second field, description, text box description. Remember, we have to pass the text boxes that you're checking. And who is present? Price is present. If you want, you can put it in different lines if it makes more sense to you. I'm just going is present here. And what is present? The price text box. There it is. Okay, so one job done. All 3 text boxes must be present. And now, so notice the sequence in which I'm giving my ands. And I'll refresh your memories how this and works. If this first field is not present at all, it becomes a false. And it looks at the and, it says, oh, and I already have a false, doesn't even check the other ones. That's the beauty of using this short circuit and instead of the single and. So I'm checking that the price is present. And if it is present, I'm going to check that it is a decimal. Remember your is decimal method? It is a decimal. If it is a decimal, then I will check that it is within range. And therefore, is decimal already checks that it is a decimal number. So I didn't use a try pass again in my within range. I just said, are you within range? So now so the sequence in which I'm calling is important. What was it? Is within range. Now here is what you have to give. Okay, which text box is the decimal? Which text box is a decimal? Price. Which text box is within range? Price. Now you have to say what is your minimum value and what is your maximum value. So definitely the minimum value should be 0. You know what I mean? You can't have a price which is negative, or you'll say $1, but I'll keep it 0 because maybe when you're adding a new product, or you can say 0.00001, 1 cent, 0.1 if you want to start with it. But 0 is okay to say, oh, price is 0. I don't know what it will be. For now, I'm just putting a 0. What about your maximum value? Now, if you say anything till infinity in the sense of its maximum value, if you want to say I can't go beyond $100, then you will say 100 here. And it will say it should lie between 0 and 100. If for what, just to show you that if you wanted to use the maximum value of your decimal value, you'll say, how will I know that? There is a constant, guys. There's a constant called max value which you can use. The decimal class has predefined. Notice how it says it is a constant. Do you see? It's a constant. It is the maximum value that you can store in a decimal number. Do you see the value that's there? That's what overflow exception catches. So if you wanted to check something is between minimum and maximum, and of course you don't know it, how would you know? Like, but there are constants that are predefined. So if you were saying between integer dot minimum and integer dot max, use integer dot. If you want to do it with between 0 and 100, use 0 and 100. If you want to do it between 0 and the maximum value that is allowed, use this. Use this. How easy it is, right? So it's kind of an overflow exception. If I had used min and max, it was an overflow exception that I was catching. Because my price cannot be less than 0, I've kind of killed one bird. I mean, I've done one method is doing 2 jobs. You know what it is doing? It is checking that it is greater than 0, and it is also checking that it is within range. So my validator class is such a neat and clean all-in-one validator class. So try catch is gone. No nested try catches are required, but I'm still doing the same job in the validator class. So if everything is okay, what should I do? Everything is okay? And you'll say, what about messages? Remember, messages will automatically come from the validator class. The only one that I didn't add in the validator class was the length of code is equal to 4. I should actually take it away from my product class and add it to my validator class. Because I wanted to show you something in the set method there. There is where I did it. Okay, so if everything is okay, what do you want to do? Create a local product. How will you create it? Use your constructor. Remember your big constructor that you wrote? What will you pass to it? Okay, now what do I need to pass to it? It required a string, and a decimal. Okay, so pass your, I'm in the new form, text code. That's your first one. Dot text, right? That's your first one. Your second was your description. That's your second one. Remember, it needed a string, and a decimal. And now I'll use the convert method again here. This is what I meant. I'll use it again. Because I know it is a decimal, I know it is within range, I'll just use it. Use your convert method again. And what do you want to convert? You want to convert your text price box. Why isn't it coming? Oh, sorry. Convert to decimal. Just because I'm thinking more than I'm doing. Okay. What do you want to convert? Take your text price box, take its text property and convert it. Forgot my do.text here. Create a product object. That's what I'm doing. That's all I'm doing, guys. There. Missing a bracket? Oh, yeah, you're right. Thanks. There it is. Oh. I thought I put one. A round bracket somewhere. Of this if. Validator, validate. Oh, yeah, I get it. Okay, thanks. This round bracket I'm missing. And I have the others are complete. Yeah, they're complete. I should always. Yeah. Yes.
Convert to decimal is getting the text description text.
Ah, thanks. Of course, it will throw an exception. Are you okay now? And remember, this method is returning. Oh, why is it returning a void? Oh. I'll have to go back. Give me a minute. Here I was calling something else. Where was it? Form new products was saying. No, not form products. Here it was saying new product form get new product. Okay, so this method is missing. No big deal. This method is missing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say no. I'm going to say give me. I'll just pick it from here. I could do it here. Anyway, it doesn't matter since it's already written. Where are you here? Okay, we need that here. It's a public method because this is private, right? I'll make a public method. It returns a product and have a local variable then. Returns the product is called this. Okay, so I'll have to change it, guys. Since save is a private method, all our event handlers are private, so I can't do this here. So every time you save, every control ED, let me make it neater. Okay, every time you save, I'm going to save a new product and this is going to return it. But definitely it can't be local. So I'll have to create a global variable here of type product. And of course it's null to begin with, but you don't have to say it here, but again, okay. So that's my product. Every time you do a save and, oops, sorry. Every time you do a save, it creates a new product. When you click save, or you know what I can do? Who will call this? I could have called the get new product right here itself, but let's leave it. I mean, I don't want to change the code there. So every time you hit save, if all your contents are complete, nothing is empty, price is decimal, is within range, your code is also 4, though it's not at the right place, I'll shift it. Everything is okay, a new product gets created. And that new product gets created. If you do a cancel, nothing happens. So if you do a cancel, product should have a value of null. It's closing this form. Closing these forms, get new product is called, product should be null. Yeah, I think we are okay. Every time you call it, product is initialized to null, you do a cancel product. Therefore, in this one, yep, that's where in this one, remember I said it should not be equal to null. Where are you? Therefore, when I said product is not equal to null. because you may do a cancel. When you do a cancel, product is null. Okay, so looks okay to me. We have to try to kind of be sure. So let's go back again what we were doing. I think we are good here. So save is creating a new product. You'll say, where is my else? What if nothing happens? You know, all those messages are being taken care from the validator. Let's check if it works. I think it will. Logically, it looks okay to me. Okay, let's try now. So run your code. We just have 5 minutes to clarify, but we will. Okay, where are you? Come on. Okay. Okay, so I should be able to, if I don't do anything and I say delete, this was an easy one. It says, please select the product to delete. I'll delete it. I'm deleting the NetBeans ones, right? And I'll say delete. Are you sure you want to delete? Yes, it's gone. It is actually also gone from your file, guys. Believe me, it is gone. I had 4 files. Remember, I had 4 to begin with. When we finish the project, you will see there will be only 3 left. Not 3, I'll be adding a new one. So if you want to exit from here, we'll do an exit. And it will say, oh, you made a change to the file. Do you want to save it? I'll say yes. It always does that. Go back to your Solution Explorer, open your products.xml. Notice it's gone. I just have 3 books left. The 4th one is gone. So it changed my list. It changed the display. It changed the file. Everything has to be changed. Now when I run it again, this will not come up. Do you see how it is different from what you did in your coffee flavors? There you had the same coffee flavors back again, because all you were doing it, you were only changing your list or your array, wherever you were keeping it. Here I'm using files. Though I haven't done XML files with you, you can assume it exists and it is working, which it is working, but we will do files next week. Okay, now let's add a new product. If you do a cancel, nothing happens. You're back to normal. If you do an add, remember this is show dialog. I cannot come back here. I cannot remember the show dialog. That's the difference. If you wanted to hide this form, it's up to you. I didn't hide it because it's nothing. It's not as if it has to go away. You know what I mean? But if you wanted to, you could say this dot hide, then you'll have to show it again. Okay, now let's try this. Save. Code is a required field. What is happening? And notice, forgot my blank here. Code entry error. So my title has changed. This message is coming from is a required field. What is this code coming from? The tag value. Okay, so I gave a code. Let's give a code. Now I'll kind of go, I mean, I know it's not the right place, but if I do this and I try to save, it's not catching it because this error of 4 characters will only come when I try to create the new product. Right? So that's why it's not coming. This is because I didn't do the validation in the validator. It's after everything is validated and I try to create the new product, then it will say, oh, your code should be 4. So therefore, the code of 4 should be in the validator class. That's its right place. So I won't do it just because I'll show you. First, we'll go the right way. Okay, so now it says description is a required field. We'll just say book. Price is a required field. So somewhere, copy pasting. Oh, you know what's going on? This is, okay. The title, once you change it, you set code entry error. With code, you added description. And then you added product to it. So it says product description code entry error. Something is wrong there. Of course, what I've done is I've done it wrong, right? Because I forgot that I've already set code entry error. When I add something to it, it will become code description entry error. When I add price to it, it will become price description code entry error. So anyway, we'll do that. No big deal. So of course, this is wrong, but we can fix that. Okay, so now let's give a price of AA. Right? What should come up? Okay, so these entry errors, we'll look at it afterwards. Must be a decimal value. Okay, now I say -1. What should come up? Out of range. See? Yeah, but 0 was my lower limit. Remember what was my upper limit? That it's looking odd, but that's what you said, right? And notice how my select all and focuses are working so neatly. That everything is neat and clean. Every error message is neat and clean, except of course my title bar, right? Everything is neat. So now try to give $10. Okay, $10 book can't be $100 book. Okay, let's save. Save. Oh, I forgot to close this form. Okay, so it has been saved twice. I hit it twice. Okay, so now we'll have to exit. Okay, so we'll say yes. I forgot to close the form. Anyway, no big deal. Come to your XML file. Notice this has been added. Product has been added. And why not twice? I did the save twice. I did not? Okay. Okay, so now what I forgot, we'll do that. What I forgot, I'll do. So what did I do? Go back to your code of new product. And after you do it, say this dot close. Remember, this is up. We forgot to do this. That's why after save, the form was not closing. So we have to do this. That's why this form was not closing. So if the form is not closing, the only way I can close it, I had to hit cancel, which I shouldn't be, but I did. Okay, so that book got added. So let's go back again now, once more. So 100 is already there. Keep in mind, 100 is already there. So there it is, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's add another product. And we'll go, now that I know A, Q, and $12, or no, $120, and we'll say save. And the form closes. This list gets populated. It also makes a change to your list of products and also makes a change to your, now see the problem, the other one that I was saying. So I gave a code of 2 and it is fine because code is not empty. I give a description of try and it will say price is not empty. And I'll give a price of $123. Now it will hit that exception, come on, and it will say, oh, and I didn't handle it, I just threw it. And of course, I will handle it some when I make this neater. But now the error comes up because this code checking is done not in the validator, but when you try to create a new product, it comes to the set method and there is where it throws the exception. So a better way would, now there are, again, there could be an argument. Programmers say that all validation of a class fields should be done in the set methods of the class. And I agree. That's where it should be done. But I just won't throw an exception here. I'll have to handle it somewhere. I'll put it in a try catch block in my product and say product cannot be created. So yes, I have done it at the right place because all validation of fields must be done in the class. Why am I doing the validation of the form in the validator class? Because that's the form validation, you know, like you'll say, then you should be doing your price greater than 0 also here. So there is, again, there are ways of doing it. You can do it here if you like, but then I'll have to put it in a try catch and I'll handle it myself. Or you can take this code and put it in the validator class. Because I haven't done it, of course, it's going to throw an exception and that's perfectly fine. So we'll have to stop this. We'll say no. And we'll kind of close this and we'll close this. So you can remove it from here and put it in the validator class, or the other option is you can do it this way also. You can put, I mean, there are so many ways of doing the same thing. You can put this in a try catch block because you're throwing an argument exception there. You can put this in a try catch block. Anything that throws an exception, put it in a try catch block and put a message on the screen. Product will not be created because whatever. But it has to be handled somewhere. We don't want to see what we saw. We don't want the program to terminate abnormally. So validation can be done wherever. Now, the only thing that I wanted, what was I forgetting, guys? Oh, I'm the title, which I think you can do, but what can we do about it? So that's what is happening. Every time I add something to it, it gets added, right? The tag gets added. That will take care of the blank one, but that's not what we want to do. The only thing we can do is we can set it to empty and then we can set it to the tag. You know what I mean?
You also need to change the spellings of field.
Of field, yeah. Yeah, so every time, how can you handle what the problem that I was getting? Every time you have to first set it to empty like this. So calling the set method like this and then getting it with the title. Oh, but now, oops. You know what? Then this kind of becomes useless. That's the initial value becomes useless. But anyway, that's all I can do to improve it. So every time it will be set to entry error and then I'm tagging it with it, right? And I'm tagging it. So because we have to take care of it. Okay, so do that here. Do that wherever you need it. I made it a private one. Must be a decimal. And remember, I had some problem in an error also. There was something which was kind of odd in an error message also. Must be between this and this. Must be a decimal value. Is a required field cannot be blank. I noticed something else also. I had a problem. So everything, I mean, this is kind of becoming absolutely redundant for me. But I'm just leaving it there so that you can see it. I'm just leaving it there so that you can see it. But if you didn't, if you wanted to, you could have, like we could have done it. But since I'm putting it entry error every time, doesn't make, like, what can I do? I have to set it every time. Better make it a constant then. And that was the whole idea, guys. That was the whole idea of putting a value, a general value. What does it say now? It's never used. Okay, I never set it. That's okay. That's not a big deal. But I was getting a problem somewhere. I can't remember now. So let's quickly just try it, run it. There was an error message which was not very pretty. Let's try to add a product. So code is a required field, cannot be blank. Code entry error. Looks neat. Okay, so let's give a code. Just because I know it has to be 4. Description entry error. Description is required field, cannot be left blank. Okay, so QQ. Price entry error. Price is a required field, cannot be left blank. QQ here, and price entry error. Price must be a decimal value. Okay. Let's give a -1. Oh, they're all okay now. I don't know. I must have seen something.
The code is not like forward, it's not have it on the message left block, it has its own exception.
This will be accepted because it is code 4, right?
But the ugly error that you're talking about is if you put it to like something other than 4.
Yeah, then it will come up. Yes.
And it goes in the exception.
It will throw in. It will, because that's what I told it to. So I have to handle it either or put it in the validator. Something I'll have to do something. So how will you put it in the validator? You will add another method. You will add another method, and it always says you do you want to. And like I have is within range, is present, is decimal. We'll put it for is code within. So we'll call it something like is within, is length 4 or something, and we can catch it here. So you can put everything in your validator class and do all the validation there. On the other hand, some programmers say since you are validating the fields of your class, you should put your validation there. But you can't put the blank there because blank is coming from the field. You cannot put is decimal there because is decimal is coming from the form. But yes, the values in the range of 0 to whatever or equal to 4, you can put it there. So you can divide the work between yourself. So by throwing an exception there, all you'll have to do is when you create it here in your new form, remember that you have to then be careful that when you do it here, which I don't have time to do it, of course. Where are we? Then I'll kind of put this where I created, I'll put this in a try catch block. And I'll give a proper message instead of having that ugly termination. I'll say, I'll just in the catch block, I'll tell the user that the code has to be of length 4. So the product never gets created, and I'll make product equal to null. So the product never gets created, so never goes back, and it's not a big job at all. It's a small thing, but you have to put it in a try catch. That's all you have to do. So you could do it this way. So you can leave, guys. I'm sorry, you can leave. I'll try to complete this and put it on GitHub also. Okay, and also I'll do it in my office and do it. So I'll kind of and put it on Blackboard also. So it's on GitHub for now. I'll put it on Blackboard after I complete the handling of the exception, just to make it neater. Okay. Yeah, there is more I could devote maybe, and my syllabus said I would devote two classes, but